All right, so you have 10.4 notes. You have 2 highlighters. We're going to use whiteboards in a second at the end. If you are not here tomorrow, your 10.4 big ideas is due the Monday we return. If you are here tomorrow, we're going to work on it in class. Make sense? So we have been talking about central angles in 10.2. What made them central? What was on the center? The vertex was on the center. What did we know about the measure of central angles? If this angle was 42 degrees, what was the measure of its arc? 42 degrees. Today we're going to talk about inscribed angles. Where is the vertex for an inscribed angle? On the circle. So as long as you're capable of halving and doubling, you will do perfectly fine in this section. If this angle was 42 degrees, if you had to make an educated guess, and I told you the relationship is half and double, what do you think the measure of arc AC would be? 84. Yeah. So the angle, I'll show you in a second. The angle is half of the arc. The arc is double the angle. That's what we're going to learn today. We're going to review central angles first before we learn the new things. So here we are. Find the measure of the arc or central angle indicated. Assume that the lines that appear to be diameters are diameters. We want to find arc LK. So what do you think is helpful in this picture to notice to find arc LK? We got diameter. We have 2 diameters. Which one is the most helpful? Yeah, LI. Because you know that we have 41 degrees and we have 89 degrees. What do we know about all 3 of them put together? They should add up to 180. So let's figure out how much we already have with the 41 and the 89. We have 130. So out of the 180, we have 130. So how much is left for LK? 50 degrees. The second one, we're finding an angle. Angle SRT, bless you. Bless you. You can do this a couple ways. This angle will be the same measure as what arc? Oh, yes, it'll be the same measure as that angle, correct. I meant what arc. Is it going to be congruent to? ST. So if you knew ST, you would know that angle. These are congruent. They are vertical. I'm just saying we know how many degrees is this arc? 180, because it sits on the diameter, one of the diameters. So you can do 180 minus 114. So then what's the measure of this arc? 66, which means the angle is also 66 degrees. There are so many ways to solve these problems. So your vertical angles were correct. This one would also be the same measure. You could have used a different diameter, all that. We're going to start with some definitions. We're going to talk about inscribed angles and polygons. So I already kind of showed you a preview about inscribed angles. So an inscribed angle is an angle with a vertex on the side of the circle, or you can say on the circle. An inscribed angle is an angle with a vertex on the circle. All right, so here's my vertex, an inscribed angle, and a central angle. Where the rays hit the circle, they form an intercepted arc. So an intercepted arc is the arc between the rays of the angle. So you're going to write that down. The intercepted arc is the arc between the rays of the angle. All right, so we left off on the intercepted arc. It's the arc between the angle's rays. So you're going to take your highlighter. You can highlight, similar to my picture, you're going to highlight the word inscribed, and then you can, in the same color, highlight your inscribed angle. And then with your second color, you can highlight intercepted arc and highlight your intercepted arc. So your inscribed angle, and then your intercepted arc. Because I'll show you the relationship between the two on this next slide that you will write down. So I don't know if it's a fill in the blank for you. I am going to have you summarize it. But the measure of an inscribed angle is half the measure of its intercepted arc. That is the blank. But I'm going to have you write this down. It's like a chant that I say. The angle is half the arc. The arc is double the angle. So go ahead and write that in, and then we're going to have you highlight it because it's really important. The angle is half the arc, and the arc is double the angle. The angle is half the arc. The arc is double the angle. So writing that in, and then I would highlight it just so you can find it later. The angle is half the arc, and the arc is double the angle. In the middle of the page. The angle is half the arc is double the angle. So let's say that arc AB was 100 degrees. We'll make this easy. What would the measure of its intercepted, or of its inscribed angle be? 50. So angle D would be 50. So you can fill it into your picture. There's an extra element to this little diagram, and it's this angle here. What kind of angle is this one? Where's its vertex? On the center. So what kind of angle is it? Central. So if its arc was 100, what would the measure of the central angle be? 100. You don't normally see them all three together, but it's just showing you. Central angles are congruent to their arcs. Inscribed angles are half of their arcs. So we're going to practice here at the bottom. Find the measure of the red arc or angle. So we have angle G. What is the arc? What is the intercepted arc for angle G? What is its name? What is the name of the intercepted arc? HF. So what do I do to find the measure of its angle? Divide it by 2. So the measure of angle G will be 45. Something else I do want to point out to you. What else do you notice in this picture that we have? D is the center. Yep. What else do we notice? We have a diameter. So again, how many degrees is that whole arc on this portion? 180. So then you might eventually be asked to find the measure of this side arc. What would you do to find that measure? Subtract from 180. So this one would be 90. So you won't always just be asked the arc or the angle. You might be asked for a different part of the circle. Number 2, we have 38 degrees. What is the name of its intercepted arc? TV. So what are we going to do to find the measure of arc TV? Double it. So 38 times 2, which is 76 degrees. There is no diameter in this picture. How do I know there's no diameter? There's no center. Yeah, they didn't show us the center. When you're ready, you're going to flip the page. I don't know why there's a staple in these notes. There's only front and back, so I don't know why that printed, but here we are. We're going to talk about inscribed angles that intercept the same arc. So let's look at this. This angle D, what arc does it intercept? What is the name of its intercepted arc? AB. And then angle C, what is the name of its intercepted arc? AB also. Because they intercept the same arc, the angles will be the same measure. Does that make sense? If the arc was 50 degrees, then that means angle D would have to be 25. But angle C also intercepts the 50-degree arc, so it would also be 25. So in this section, you'll be asked to find congruent angles. So number 3, it says find the measure of the red arc or angle. We want to find angle X. What is the name of its intercepted arc? What is the name of its arc? ZW. What other angle intercepts ZW? Angle Y. What's the measure of angle Y? 72, which means the measure of angle X will also be 72. And again, it's because if Y is 72, then ZW will be double that, which would be 144, which would mean this angle would be half that, which is still 72. So it's just a way to not have to do a bunch of work. But if they intercept the same arc, then they're congruent to each other. Maybe that was next door. An inscribed right triangle. Inscribed right triangle. Essentially, if one of the sides of a triangle is the diameter, it's going to be the hypotenuse. So go ahead and highlight. You already have this definition written? Yes, no, maybe so? I would highlight hypotenuse and diameter. If one of the sides is the diameter, it will be the hypotenuse, which means you'll have a right triangle. So in your picture, go ahead and highlight your hypotenuse, AC. Highlight your hypotenuse, which is AC. Hypotenuse. And then where's the right angle always going to be? Across from that. So it won't always be drawn for you. You're going to have to find it yourself. But essentially, you're looking for one of the sides to be the diameter. And that would mean the angle across from it will be a right angle. So, number 4, find the value of each variable. One of the sides is the hypotenuse, or one of the sides is the diameter. So you can go ahead and label it as the hypotenuse. So what angle can we find right off the bat? Or what letter can we find? X. What's X going to be? 90. You can add them up, subtract from 180, or you could just subtract 40 from 90. Either way, what is Y going to be? 50. So if one of the sides is the diameter, it's going to be the hypotenuse of your right triangle. The last concept that we learned together is about quadrilaterals. What is the definition of a quadrilateral? That's 4 sides, right? So these aren't going to look like squares, and they're not going to look like rectangles. They're just going to look like wonky-looking 4-sided shapes. We're going to highlight the definition. A quadrilateral can be inscribed if only the opposite angles are supplementary. So you're going to highlight the opposite angles are supplementary. The opposite angles are supplementary. Or I guess you write it and then highlight it. The opposite angles are supplementary. What does supplementary mean to me? Hey, add up to 180. So the opposite angles are supplementary. So if E is 80 degrees, what angle is opposite of it? If E in my picture is 80 degrees, what angle is opposite of it? G. So what would G be? 100 degrees. And if angle D was 120 degrees, that means angle F would be 60 degrees. So that's all that it's saying in this section. The ones across from each other will add up to 180. I know you don't have a ton of room. Just try to find some. We're going to do 5 and 6 and then use our whiteboards. Do you want to find X or Y first? Y, sounds good. What is Y opposite of? 68. So what do I do to find the measure of angle Y? Subtract from 180. Oops. So 180 minus 68 means Y is 112. Please make sure you label Y, X and Y when you do it. X is opposite of 82, so we're going to do the same thing. 180 minus 82 means X is 98. Good, the last one. Do you want to find X or C first? C, sounds good. So C is across from 2C minus 6, and they are supplementary. So we're going to add them. So C plus 2C minus 6 will equal 180. C plus 2C is 3C minus 6 equals 180. Add 6. 3C equals 186. Perfect. Divide by 3, and C is 62. And then last would be 8x and 10x. So again, they add up to 180. 8x plus 10x equals 180. What is 8x plus 10x? 18x. So then x is 10. All right, so I would keep out your notes just so you can refer to them. But you're going to take out a whiteboard and a marker. Some of them will be simpler. Some of them will be a little harder. Starting here, I want you to answer them one at a time because it's a lot for me to read. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. You're going to tell me two things. You're going to decide if they're central or inscribed, and then you're going to name the intercepted arc. So you're going to do two things for each of them, but do them one at a time. Start with number 1. Tell me if it is central or inscribed, and then name the intercepted arc. Correct. 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 Yes. Sorry, I thought it was a V. That's good. Yes, ma'am. And then when you name an arc, you just put the little arc symbol. Yeah, that's good. So you're doing one at a time. Yes, ma'am. Good. Good. Yep, one at a time. That first one's good. Second one's good. You got to name the arc. Second one's good. That's good. That's good. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes. You're all on very different questions. So, good. Check it. Check it. Good. Good. Oh, is that the fourth one? Check it. Check your fourth one. That's first. Good. Check the fourth one. That's good. I didn't look at yours, Gabe. I'm sorry. I was looking at her. That's good. Check the fourth. Check the fourth. Check the fourth. So a lot of you are on the fourth. I'm recording, so I'll do the first 3. Where's the vertex on the first one? Yes, the center, which makes it central. And it intercepts arc JK. Number 2, where's the vertex? On the side, which makes it inscribed. And then it intercepts GF. Ooh, that's an ugly F. 3, the vertex is on the side, and it intercepts, so it's inscribed. Intercepts XW. Where's the vertex on number 4? It's in the circle. It's neither. There's nothing. It's not on the center, so it's not central. It's not on the circle, so it's not inscribed. This is neither. You could still name the intercepted arc. The arc is still WX, but it's not central because it's not on the center, and it's not inscribed because it's not on the circle. All right, this one, find the measure of angle A. You can answer both of these at the same time. Angle A and then arc RS. Find the measure of angle A and then arc RS. Good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good. So angle A intercepts arc BC. So what do I do to find angle A? Half of 84, which is 42. RS is intercepted by 67 degrees. So what do I do to find the measure of arc RS? Double it. It says 134. They are going to get harder. This next one says find the measure of angle G. Find the measure of angle N. You'll have to find other things before you find what you want to find. One of them's right, one's wrong. So on the first one, you're finding an angle. The second one, they're both finding an angle on both of them. But you got to find its intercepted arc before you find the angle. So find the measure of the arc, and then you can find the measure of the angle. That's better. One of them's right, one of them's wrong. That's correct. One of them's right, one of them's wrong. What is the name of the arc for angle G? Almost. FD. So how do I find FD if I know the remainder of the circle is 70 and 120? Add them and subtract from 360. So 360 minus, what is 70 plus 120? 190. So what is the measure of the intercepted arc? 170. So then the measure of angle G? 85, it'll be half that. Angle N, what's the name of the intercepted arc for angle N? LM. So we need to find LM. We do know that NM is 160. What do we call this line in the middle here? Diameter. Diameter cuts the circle in half. So how many degrees will 160 and LM make? 180. So LM is 20, which means its angle is 10. It'll be half that. So you need to be prepared to find other things before you find the angle you want. We'll keep practicing. These you're going to find X and Y. Just make sure you label X and Y, especially on the first one. We have a new one on the board. Check your math. Correct. Check your math on Y. Yes. So on the first one, what is across from X? 81. So what do I do with 81? Subtract from 180, which makes 99. And then across from 90 is Y, so we subtract 180 minus 90, which makes y 90. And then if you want to find x, what do I do with 3x and 63? I add them, and then what do they equal? 180. So what do we get for x? Is it 29 or 39? 29. And then for y, we're going to do the same thing. 4y minus 1 plus 65 equals 180. So then y is 39. So make sure you add them and they equal 180. Which one is 29 and which one's 39 is what I was asking. So y should be 29. And x is 39. Perfect. All right, go ahead and find this question mark. You'll have to find something else before you find the question mark. Good job. That's it. That's good. So here's angle M. What's the name of its intercepted arc? KL. We notice we have a diameter, right? So if we have 70 degrees out of the 180, what's the measure of KL? 110. So then how do I find the angle? Divide by 2. So 55. Option number 2. Some people like to think outside of the box. 70 degrees means that angle K is how many? 35. And if one of my sides of the triangle is a diameter, what do we call this side? The hypotenuse, which means angle L is 90, and then you can, add and subtract from 180. This next one, you're going to name, it says name two pairs of congruent angles. So you're going to name two pairs of congruent angles. I think we did this on page 2, the top of page 2. So you're looking for two angles that start and stop. So you want two pairs that start and stop on the same arc. So figure out which two angles start and stop on the same arc. Yes, ma'am. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't tell the difference between your letter B and your letter D. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So you name both pairs. First one's good. Yes, that's good. Yes. So I'm going to tell you the answers to the first one because it's a lot to read. So angle A starts and stops at BC. So does angle D. So angle A is congruent to angle D. And then also angle B starts and stops at arc AD, and so does angle C. So angle B is congruent to angle C. So those should be your two pairs. You can go ahead and solve the second one. That's good. I can't read yours. Check your math. That's like. Is it? Oh, sorry, that's right. So what kind of shape's on the inside of the circle? Quadrilateral. So then what do I do to find n? Yeah, you can set them equal to 180. 180 minus 100 is 80. N is 80. And then for 65, 180 minus 65 is 115. These two are honors questions. Helps it probably if you draw the picture. So let's see what would be helpful to find first. So you want to like digest the picture in, right? You can find A and B, because what shape is on the inside? Quadrilateral. Then from there, you're going to find intercepted arcs. So I'll let you find A and B first. That's good. So now go from there and find the measure of the intercepted arcs. I would start with the arcs that deal with the 120 and go from there. I won't tell you. But if you know angle B, this is the intercepted arc. So you know what the whole arc should be. You also know that this is 120. You can find E that way. And then the same thing with C, and then eventually D. Yes, ma'am.
For 120, what is it, like, is it the measure of HG?
What?
Like, 120, what's the,
120 is HG, yes. Give me a second. Good job. E and D are wrong. Can you show me C again? C is right. It's just E and D. I think you're missing one. A, B, C.
I didn't miss it.
Yeah. A, B, C. E, D. Oh, you just did them in a random order. Okay, they're right. The first two were right. It was the 190 that's weird. Yes, ma'am. Does that say 84? That's good. All right, so start with B. What is B going to be? 100. And what is A? 88. Because opposite of 92, they add up to 180. So, angle, or B, if you will, its intercepted arc is this one. How many degrees should its intercepted arc be? 200. Out of the 200, how much do you already have? So what do you do to find E? Subtract from the 200. So E has to be 80. Because 80 plus 120 makes the 200 that it should be. For the 88, its intercepted arc is from H all the way to F. You already have 80 degrees of it. What should the whole thing be if we have 88 degrees? 176. Subtract the 80, D has to be 96. And then what do we have left? We have C. You could find it two ways. You could find it using 92. How many degrees would this whole arc have to be? Have to be double of 92, so 184. Subtract 120, C has to be 64. So that's option 1. You're going to 64. Option 2, you can use the 80 degrees. What's the measure of its whole arc going to be? 160 minus the 96, and you still get 64. So go ahead and start on the next one. I don't have the answer yet, so hold on. I'm hungry. All right, what'd you get? Good. Good, you're just in a random order. Or is yours, can you show me your letter D looks like an A or something. Is that a D then? Okay. All right, good. So where did you start for the second one? Which letter did you start with, A, B, C, or D? A. How do you find A? Multiply times 2. What's 59 times 2? 118. Because it will be double its angle. And then the other thing you have is this arc, which will help you find B. How do you find B? Divide by 2. What is 138 divided by 2? 69. All right, so then you have two angles and a triangle. How do you find angle C? Add and subtract from 180, so C is 50 what? 2. Angle C intercepts that arc, so then you're going to double it and you'll get 104. This is our last one. This one's even easier. The first one's easier. Well, what kind of angle is that? Starts on the center, right? So does it really matter? Because the central angle is congruent to the arc. So really, yes.
A is the arc.
It doesn't matter. Yes. Yes, yes. Because what kind of angle is that? Because the angle is on the center, right? So the center, the angle will be the same as the arc. That's good. Good. So the first one, you've heard me say it a couple times now, but this angle is sitting on the center, so it's going to be the same measure as the arc. So if this is the diameter, this whole thing is 180. 180 minus 150 is 30, so A is 30. And then this would also be 180. Oh, that's the first one. Which one are I can't tell your answers. Yes. Sorry. What is it? Oh, okay. Yes. Sorry, I was looking at the top one. Okay, good. So A is across from 78, which means they're supplementary. So A is 102. It intercepts this arc. So this whole arc will be 204. Subtract your 74 and you get 130 for B.